A lot of puking in this game thus far. I'm in the lavatory for a little while, maybe about 10 minutes, partially to collect myself, and mostly because I'm embarrassed, and I just hope Neferu has moved on for now. Still, at least I had managed not to be sick in the corridor like my stomach wanted to be. I'm running my paws under the faucet, cleaning myself up before the stream of water suddenly stops and an unfamiliar voice rings in my head. Scipio? I don't know what the hell I yelp out loud. Apologies. Paw washing water limit has been reached. I stand there, staring at my own reflection in the mirror, deciding that what I'd heard came from within my head. But how? I begin to panic slightly before I realize that, like with some parental tech I'd interacted with, it must be from my lingua. So I respond. Yes? Who is this? I get an immediate answer in return. I am the state-sponsored computer assistant of Khemia. Oh, yes, I know you. I've studied. I trail off, reminding myself that this is a computer and does not care about what I've studied or about anything at all. You have studied me? The computer asks in a slightly curious tone after a polite pause. This is very odd. It's odd that it's speaking directly into my lingua. Com never did that, and I doubt he can. But something else is even more strange about this computer that I'm trying to put my finger on. Yes, I did not expect you to speak through my lingua. It was a bit startling. I feel as if I would remember that bit of information if I came across it in my studies. Apologies, Scipio. I was converted to lingua use only, unless otherwise directed. This is to protect the privacy of all those who I am speaking to. Would you prefer auditory communication instead? No, this is fine. Very well. I wonder the same thing. That I wondered when I first saw the ship, the same thing Amicus questioned when we entered the stretch. How is this possible? It implies that Khemians have learned how to access and manipulate the lingua directly. While it is impressive, it also rekindles a feeling I fear. What else might they be able to do if they can fully access the tiny piece of machinery embedded in my brain? Do we really know the extent of Khemian knowledge and power? Is it really possible to do such things alone, without parental help? As I'm contemplating this, fills the silence like a sapient noticing a lull in the conversation. I can provide you with non-water methods to sanitize if you wish. Unfortunately, our water reserves are limited. No, I'm fine, thank you. You are welcome, Scipio, and it's a pleasure meeting you. You as well. I realize what bothers me about him, aside from accessing my neurotech without my consent or foreknowledge. With Com, I never feel as if he is truly intelligent, quote unquote. I never feel as if he has thoughts or feelings of his own while he communicates. I might say Com is comparatively stupid, but he's simply a program that consumes information, analyzes, then outputs sentences based on that information. This Khemian machine is something different, and I wonder how widespread it is on Khemia. The eerie feeling persists as I stare into the mirror, feeling that something isn't right. Something about the Khemians. I banish the thought for now and adjust my robes, trying to keep my emotions under control. I feel like this whole thing is new. This is new. I don't remember this at all. And I like it. Because I don't remember there being much of a hook in the original build. Like, I remember there being like this is going to be the Neferu game. But like, unless you were interested in Neferu and Khemia, the planet, there wasn't much of a draw. But now I'm like, what the fuck is going on Khemia? Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, now I'm not only drawn in by like Neferu's personal conflict and Scipio's fucking personal development, which is more fleshed out here, but also like, what the fuck is going on with Khemia as a whole technologically. What the fuck is going on here? Like, I am curious. Now is not the time. I can discuss it with Veterus, or maybe even Amicus, later. With that in mind, I look into the mirror one last time to assess the state of my facial fur before tapping the panel and stepping out into the corridor. Oh! Why is he still here? It has to be at least 15 minutes. It has to have been at least 15 minutes. Hello? I had jumped just like Neferu, same pose and everything. And now I quickly smoothed down my robe, a gesture meant to cover up my reaction, but well, only makes it all the more obvious. I had been trying to listen through the door. Either way, it puts me on guard. Hello? I pause, trying to think of something to say, but I can't think of anything, so I simply ask what would be most normal in this situation. Did you need the lavatory? No, just checking to see if you're well. You look quite shaken up. As Neferu confirms the reason I thought you might be lingering here, I feel just a small flash of irritation. He's looking after me, which is kind and generous of him, but as he has no obligation to do so, but it makes me feel childish, him looking after me this closely. Perhaps even suspicious. I adjust my expression to appear more serious, but also calm. A cool, emotionless look. I am fine. Thank you, Neferu. Please do not worry so much for my well-being. I do not wish to be the reason for you neglecting your own duties. Uh-oh. Like, you just opened up to him and you had this big emotional moment. I don't know if this scene makes as much sense now. I don't remember, obviously, as shown earlier by me misremembering the assassination attempt as a nightmare. I obviously have spotty memory when it comes to the original build, but like, I don't remember if we had that big emotional scene as we did with the confession in the original build. If we did, then just fucking whatever to this. But like, this feels disjointed with that. We literally just, like, not even an hour ago in game time, had a big, I need to be emotionally close with you and have this connection thing. And then we're just now being like, don't worry about me, don't neglect your duties kind of thing. Like, I don't know. Doesn't feel natural. There have been a lot of moments where the dialogue didn't feel natural throughout this whole thing. I'll talk about that more later, but there have been some times where it's been a little stilted. Anyway, the look on Neferu's face is hard to describe. It's not a pleasant look, and it's enough to throw me off despite him not saying anything. Another moment of silence passes, and I begin to think over Khemian etiquette, wondering if I violated a taboo of some kind. Of course, Neferu would be understanding of such things, but considering that we are not on Adastra anymore, perhaps he is less forgiving now. Just as I begin to open my mouth to ask what the issue is, Neferu finally speaks. I see. Very well. I shall leave you to attend to your own matters then. Apologies for bruising your Wolven pride. Neferu turns on his heel before briskly walking away. I stand there alone, the low hum of the ship's various moving parts, the only sound filling the heavy silence while I try to understand what just happened. I had acted within diplomatic norms. No, you didn't. Really, any interaction among diplomats is normal as long as only words are used, specifically the right words. They weren't. Present an aura of civility. It wasn't. Even if your primal instincts are telling you to knock the other's teeth out. What are you talking about? This is one of the main issues of pre-Drusus Adastra. Apparently, Wolven diplomats of the era routinely took swings at other siblings, and even amongst themselves, when they became angry or offended. Despite this being over 10,000 years in the past, it's a reputation that still haunts us. I suppose it's not helpful that our experimental attempts at a republic have resulted in brawls within the Senate in just the past year. I'm sure footage of the fights was shown gleefully across the news channels of the other siblings, showing that we haven't changed, that there's something innately wrong with our culture or even our species. Well, I might admit that Wolven hubris has been the main hindrance of our history. I'm not going to allow myself to be threatened as some sort of idiot savage. What the fuck are you talking about? This is fucking Neferu you're talking about. Like, you just had an emotional heart-to-heart. You're the one that slighted him. What the fuck? You're being irrational, and the narrator is the irrational guy, so I don't know. Anyway, we have our own culture, our own language, our own universities. We witnessed it. We saw you bleed because of him. Perhaps he wishes to... Wow. Okay, so yeah, we're being irrational, and now we're being fed irrational feelings. Perhaps he wishes you to bleed even more. And I feel that despite my admiration for Khemia as a whole, they have their own issues with hubris. Wow, this is fucked. Neferu is a clear example of that. Wolven pride. The hackles along my shoulders begin to rise, and I work to contain myself. What an odd and frankly childish thing for him to say. You know what? I was pulling back on this a little bit, but now, honestly, I'm kind of glad I stuck it out for a little bit. This is actually an interesting bit to be included here. They had a war, these two cultures, and they're trying to have this alliance out of this sort of necessity because their parents told them to get along, which in a galactic sense, there's gonna be like an internalized racism kind of thing, combined with the various internal complexes on an individual level. It's gonna happen. Biases, prejudices are gonna be played out. That's an interesting angle that hadn't been played up yet. Okay. I hadn't really thought about it yet. Let's see where this goes. I suppose it was insensitive of me to act in such a manner towards someone who so recently called me a friend, but his reaction was clearly hostile and hypocritical. See, there it's right there. Maybe acknowledge what I did was not right, but what they did, there you go. Like, it's textbook, like, narcissism even. I suspect that he has issues deeper than his facade will ever admit. That's what Amicus was like at the beginning of Adastra. But the unfamiliar anger in my mind dampens as I remember my duties. Here you get, then there's that, like, either other external influence, whatever the fuck. I suspect it's Mira, or something fucking with him. Not even 1 hour into my mission, I'm already failing. I stand there for a while in silence, wavering as if on the edge of a cliff before gritting my teeth and... Thank you, Spoofy. Gritting my teeth and clenching my paws into fists. No, none of this. Either I will succeed or I will fail, but in both cases I will continue on and serve the Empire, all for the greater good of Adastra. I am not some Wolven bitch for Khemians to look down upon and shake their heads at. So, pushing through the hurt and embarrassment and blinking past the blur of moisture in my eyes, I set off aimlessly, unsure of where to go, but just wanting to move. I'm sure they'll summon me through if I'm needed. As I walk quickly through the corridor, I happen to glance out the windows, having forgotten about the nauseatingly bending light, and I feel my stomach lurch instantly. But I'm still feeling motivated by my sudden burst of furious confidence in myself, so I say in a low, stern voice, No. Go. I force myself to continue looking where I walk, demanding my stomach to settle. Still, it doesn't appear that I have gained voluntary control over the mechanisms that dictate nausea in my body. Already irritated by my early failure, I force myself to continue staring, feeling that, in a way, this is punishment for being unable to handle simple, easy things that no one else has difficulty handling. It's similar to when I experienced insomnia when I was first away from home at university. It was disturbingly satisfying to tell my own body that it only had itself to blame for being so tired during classes, and that maybe it should sleep next time. I do the same now, mentally sneering at my roiling stomach for being so weak that it can't handle the movement of light. Neferu's assurances that others have a weak mind like my own is difficult to believe now. He probably only says whatever he thinks I want. My meandering thoughts are brought to a very sudden and rude end as my feet catch something on the floor and my paws flail out for something to grab. I yelp loudly as a few toe claws bend back before landing heavily on my side, my paw pads slapping the smooth, hard floor to keep from falling further. Rubbing at my left side of my hip, I look down at my feet in confusion. 3 metallic crates stick out from a doorway into the corridor, and my foot had caught the corner of one sticking out furthest. Huh? There's a heavy grunt that I recognize immediately, and Brunis sticks his head around the door with a stern squint before looking down and seeing me. Skip! What the hell are you doing? My irritation and self-pity are only amplified now. I get to my feet roughly, likely flashing Brunis with my undergarments as I don't bother trying to keep my robe down. He's not the type to care anyway. Is leaving your belongings out for others to injure themselves on a normal Khemian custom? Brunis blinks at me, probably due to the fact that he's never seen me act like this. Huh? I'm moving stuff right now. Is it a wolf thing to not look where you're going? I'm simply curious as to whether or not I should be more careful around you Khemians, especially if I want to return to Adastra in one piece. What the hell crawled up your ass, Skip? I sigh and massage the bridge of my snout with both paws, feeling my stomach lurch again, exacerbated by my falling. I have to admit that Brunis's techniques for de-escalating tense situations, despite seeming informal and unrefined, are disarming. Oh no, Brunis. Can I get an antiemetic, please? Certainly. A drone has been dispatched to your location. Speaking of which, I just had to deal with Neferu biting my head off for being fat. I turned my attention back to Brunis. Speaking of which, what do you mean by that? Speaking of things up, oh crap. Brunis winces. You guys are kind of tight about that sort of thing, aren't you? I didn't mean it like that. You could have been up his ass for all that. I waved my paw, providing an escape for the flustered Wolverine. The anger I felt already beginning to dissipate. It's difficult to be mad at Brunis anyway. Yes, uptight. Anyway, I am sorry that I snapped at you. I'm not feeling well. Yeah, looks like you ain't. Brunis watches as I am suddenly distracted by a smooth, glossy black dome that levitates towards me, then extends a tiny white wafer. I take it with some confusion. Thanks. Do I need water, or... Goes under the tongue. I try not to visibly blanch at the idea of letting vile medication sit in my mouth for any amount of time, but quick relief is preferable, assuming it works as quickly as Neferu said, or if it even works after the nausea has set in. Alright. Anyway, what were you saying about Neferu being upset? Does he usually criticize your size? Carefully drop the square wafer under my tongue, hardly feeling it land before I close my mouth, and it dissolves instantly. Brunis shrugs. Not really.
I was in the hall bringing stuff in, and he told me to move and not take up the entire space or something. He scurried off before I could ask what crawled up his ass. You two fighting or something?
Brunis looks at me, waiting for a response. I point at my mouth to remind him of the medication while being simultaneously glad to have an excuse not to respond.
No, you can swallow it now. It's made with some weird nanotech stuff that makes you absorb it in like a few seconds.
Though Brunis doesn't sound like he knows what he's talking about, he's definitely right. The nausea is almost instantly gone, and I'm glad for this Khemian nanotech. I expect the taste to be bitter and acrid, but instead it's slightly sweet and almost non-existent. Fascinating. I say it to myself, never having had an antiemetic that worked after the fact, though Brunis responds with a face of disgust.
I'd rather feel sick than take that shit. Makes me feel slow as hell all day. Pap takes care of motion sickness and all my other problems too.
The Wolverine looks down at the large crates.
By the way, you're rooming with me. I already pushed your stuff in.
I take a look around Brunis to peer inside a small room with 2 beds on either side, one of which already has 2 identical metal crates next to it. Oh, thank you, Brunis. It makes me feel guilty knowing that he had hauled my belongings in first, only for me to yell at him.
Sure. Don't know why they dropped all our shit here instead of in the actual room, though. Yo,
It's silent for a moment, and I wonder if Brunis failed to summon the assistant, and then I remember how it works.
Give me some pap! They destroyed my stash on Adastra.
Brunis gives me a knowing look.
Probably destroyed by that asshole magistrate. I'll bet he's high off his ass right now. For the sake of tap.
I'm confused by the sudden change in tone, and I realize he was responding to something said. I suppose there are downsides of having a computer assistant only you can hear.
You want me to list everything? Headache, backache, stomachache, heartache. Yeah, great, thanks.
Brunis turns his attention back to me as I look down at one of the crates. Normally, it would be levitating slightly off the ground through the use of magnets, though I suppose the floor here is not compatible. Here, I'll push these ones. These ones? These ones. For some reason, these ones sounds wrong, but I don't know why. Here, I'll push these inside, or this one, this one, or these. I don't know why. It's like a double plural, which isn't wrong, I don't think. I have no idea. I'll push these inside. It sounds like you're in a great deal of pain. Brunis shrugs.
No, I'll live. You just gotta give enough reasons to justify dealing it out. I don't mind you helping, though.
I grunt as I slide one of the cases across the floor, wishing that it had at least wheels. Isn't drug usage free and plentiful on Khemia? Brunis makes a snorting sound.
That's what they tell you in wolf school?
His knowing, condescending tone might have irritated me, but I know Brunis doesn't mean for it to demean or hurt me, unlike what Neferu just did. Besides, snide remarks about wolves are something I will probably hear regularly on Khemia, so this is a good opportunity to practice separating my emotions and my work. Well, not told, but shown footage of addicted Khemians in the streets of the capital.
Propaganda.
Is it not true, though?
Doesn't matter if it's true. What matters is what they're using it for.
I decided to let the topic go at that point, knowing that there's truth in what we both said. Also because it's difficult to continue talking under the strain of pushing the crate. Brunis gives a much louder grunt as he follows me into the room, pushing the last crate. Anyway, it does seem like you are in a lot of pain. I come to a stop at the foot of what I assume is Brunis's bed, while the Wolverine follows shortly after.
One sec.
He stoops to catch his breath.
If the aches flare up real bad, I just get a script from the palace doctor.
My slightly heavy breathing is dwarfed by the huffing and panting of the Wolverine as he leans heavily against the crate.
I don't like him very much because not being able to feel pain is kind of scary to me. But like I said, it ain't bad. I can still walk.
Brunis sits on the crate, his sizable rear covering most of it. Is it related to when you were injured?
Yep. Happened when I was real young, though, so it feels normal to me.
I wonder if he's gonna tell me what happened, but when he doesn't, I don't press further.
Anyway, Pap helps a bit with that, but it's mostly mental shit where it really does wonders for me. Keeps me sane, I think.
No? How so? I try not to seem too interested. Even though we aren't on Adastra, the idea of a psychoactive drug so readily available is frightening.
Well, I guess it kind of makes everything make a little more sense. Slow stuff down so I can think through it properly.
That sounds rather nice.
And what I like most about it is that it makes emotions feel more meaningful, I guess. I don't know, though. Never had to explain it before. It just feels good.
I raise a brow. Doesn't that get in the way of your work? I know he smokes the pipe almost constantly, and while I can understand using it for leisure, I would be hesitant to alter my mind while doing important work on behalf of the parents.
Well, that's the thing. I feel things better. It's easier to empathize, and that's important for diplomacy.
I think wanting to inquire more about emotions and diplomacy, but I'm also unsure if I should be discussing such matters with Brunis. I was told that he's a highly skilled and experienced negotiator in Khemian politics, even graduating from Sabayet, the school Neferu had also gone to. I have to remember they're watching and observing too, and even if I am the lowest ranking Adastran here, that could make me a target. I'm spared making the decision as a soundless drone floats into the cabin, this time extending a small black capsule about the size of my thumb. Brunis eyes it before plucking the capsule rather aggressively from the drone.
Thanks. This'll last me a solid half hour, Anyway,
Brunis uses a flicking motion with his thumb to open the tiny capsule.
You shouldn't let personal feelings get in the way. It's important to empathize with the side you're negotiating with.
Watch him pack the strange pipe contraption for a while, the Wolverine handing the flaky green concoction carefully as to not spill any of it. Can it help with distracting thoughts? I can't stop myself from asking. I have, for the most part, been able to keep myself in check for the better part of 2 years, but the past hour has left me feeling as if it's all about to fall apart. I realize then how desperate I am for some kind of solution, a fix for this dysfunctional brain of mine. I suppose my approach isn't subtle, however. Brunis leans back and eyes me closely, his pipe held in one paw.
It might. It's different for everyone, but I know people that use it to focus. You doing okay, by the way?
Definitely! As you know, it's very illegal to possess such substances on Adastra, so I am simply curious about this part of Khemian culture. Brunis continues to study me, and I try to keep my paws from fidgeting by clasping them together. Perhaps it does not matter, considering Neferu will likely tell Brunis about my issues anyway, despite his promise.
Well, Pap is just the Khemian strain of Chronoma, which is native to Omorpha. Kinda funny that it's banned on Adastra when you guys borrowed so much from the cats.
Brunis winks at me to lighten the jab, even though I'm too anxious at the idea of this plant to even really register it.
Anyway, if you really are interested, I can take you to an Amorphin dispensary. The cats really know their shit when it comes to anything plant-related, obviously. They got a bunch of the stuff that might be better for you.
Well, maybe I'll have to look at one sometime. Brunis can clearly see that I am interested, which only convinces me to back out of this odd, reckless attempt to fix myself. While I know that much of the education I'd received on the use of recreational drugs was simply state-sponsored propaganda, I still feel deeply uneasy about it. Using a drug to patch over a mental deficiency like mine simply feels unwise. Just as I'm about to head over to my side of the room, however, Brunis sticks his pipe out toward me.
Want a puff? I know it's not a wolf thing, but it'd be rude of me not to offer.
I stare at the pipe for a second, my curiosity rekindled for just a moment before the words of my instructor in mindfulness come to me. Meditation is key, Scipio. Alcohol only damages your self-awareness and self-control. I assume he would say this about most drugs, especially those used for mind alteration. So I hold up a paw. I am tempted, due to wanting to understand Khemian culture better, but I should avoid any psychoactive substances while I am on this mission.
That's probably a good idea. It can be a hard one to predict if you've never had it.
The big Wolverine ambles over to his own bed, sitting down with a heavy sigh, inhaling from his pipe, the room filling with that herbal smell before it quickly dissipates again. It must be the air filtration system vacuuming it away.
So, what do wolves do for fun in a place where everything's illegal?
I sit back, feeling a bit more sluggish now, probably due to the nausea medication. We have alcohol. Saying this reminds me of the time I asked my doctor for something to help cope with the anxiety 3 years ago. I especially remember his look of surprise and confusion before telling me that sedatives were a womanly medication and that I should instead go buy some cheap drink instead. It certainly felt manly, boldly drinking an entire mug of toxic-tasting ale while my friends cheered me on. And it did help. At least until I began blacking out from drinking too much, and that frightened me away from it. Probably for the best. Brunis makes a face.
Ugh, not a fan of the stuff. Makes me sick and gives me a headache.
I don't enjoy it anymore. I mainly partook to better match the mood of my friends on our nights off.
Oh, I understand that feeling. And it tastes like shit. Sure, acquired tastes and all, but it all tastes the same to me, just different shades of shit.
Yeah, taste would probably make me vomit these days, but mostly I didn't like the feeling of having less control over myself. I've seen a few friends completely consumed by it, and it's a terrible thing. Wonder about one of them now, Gaius. Who'd gone from perfect marks at university to living on the streets. It happened after losing his best friend in the riots, who was also a friend of mine. Spurious. My breath hitches and I sit up straighter. Sorry, Brunis, you mind if I meditate?
Oh, yeah, not at all. Do you need me to leave?
No, you're fine. Brunis nods and lies back on the bed, staring at the ceiling as he continues to smoke his pipe. I sit cross-legged at the foot of my bed, beginning with the familiar first step of focusing on my breathing.